Hi everyone, welcome back. We're now going to talk about one of the most important topics for getting started, which is choosing your topic. Even in a really long essay, you can't possibly cover everything, so you're going to have to choose what specifically you want to talk about. So we're going to talk right now a little bit about choosing a particular topic, or maybe two topics, and narrowing it down and finding your own focus. We'll also talk about how this then feeds into your essay outline, which you should kind of keep as a rolling document, as we say, and that continually changes and updates as you work on your assignment. So let's talk first about choosing a topic. So choosing a topic, there's a couple of different opinions on this, and I'll do my best to present both sides of the story. The first thing you want to do is start with a broad area. So you don't want to immediately dive into something really, really niche. Then you want to start researching. So pull up the library search, look at some of the databases you can find, possibly on the LibGuides. If you have any questions about any of the library searching stuff, we'll talk about that a little bit in the next video on research, but also there's a library chat you can go to on the library website, and the librarians will be more than happy to help you with anything to do with research. They're very available and very happy to help. So to choose a broad area, you start doing some research, you start digging into the topic, start finding out what people have said about it and what kind of subtopics there are. So you're learning at this point. You're finding out what's there and you follow the research. So if you read a really interesting article about something, you might start finding more articles like it, perhaps suggested articles that pop up online, or maybe articles that it links to possibly in its footnotes or in the end notes. And just get started. Sometimes people spend so long thinking, I don't know what to write about. One of the most important things is just go out, start reading, start learning, and hopefully interesting things should start emerging. And there's a really important question at this point, which is when things like ideas start coming up, do you follow the ones you're really passionate about, or do you follow the ones you think will give you the best end product? And there's two different schools of thought here. So if you choose the topic that you really love and that you care quite a lot about, or if you choose a topic that you care a little less about, but you think might possibly get you a better grade, perhaps, I'll talk about some of the pros and cons of both of these approaches. So first, a topic that you love provides you with intrinsic motivation. You're going to want to keep going, keep working on your essay because you genuinely care about this topic. It means a lot to you. The difficulty is that choosing a topic you love can blind you to problems. It can make you not notice when maybe your argument isn't as strong as it could be, or maybe there aren't enough sources to back up the claims you're trying to make. If you care too much about a topic, you can sometimes be a little bit biased and lack objectivity. On the other hand, when you focus on a topic that you care less about, it might be less enjoyable. You might not care as deeply about the work, and you might struggle with motivation a bit. At the same time, this keeps the focus on the work so that you're actually paying attention to writing a really good essay, a really good paper, pulling together a strong argument with good research, rather than just getting carried away by the ideas. So here's a few more kind of pros and cons. Some questions that you should ask for yourself are, can I find enough research on the topic? Whether it's a big thing you care very deeply about or something you're not so passionate about, you do need absolutely to find research. And secondly, can I be fair and unbiased? If you have a really strong opinion on a topic, it may not be possible for you to be completely objective. So you want to think critically about this. So am I able to critically analyze this material? Do you have the capacity, both kind of emotionally and the research available, to be able to look really carefully at this topic? And ultimately, am I able to write about this subject in an academically rigorous manner? Because what matters most in the end is that you are writing a paper that you are submitting for an academic degree. If you can't write a strong academic paper on the subject, you shouldn't follow that subject. Now, I'm going to make clear that normally I would say write about a topic you're passionate about, write about something you care about. That's what I always do. I think writing about something that you care deeply about is a really good way to keep yourself motivated. But I just want to caution you against choosing something that is too personal or that you care too much about and that you might not be able to deal with in quite an objective way. So just something to think about. So now we're going to do a little activity about narrowing it down. Suppose you've got a topic, perhaps a really big topic, say in this example, something like leadership, which may well be a kind of topic that you could cover in your autonomy assessment. But leadership by itself is far too big to cover in this fairly short assessment. Even if you had thousands and thousands of words, you couldn't possibly say everything there is to say about leadership. So how are we going to narrow that down? So pause the video at this point and take about 2 or 3 minutes to think of all the different ways that you could narrow leadership down and look at it in smaller categories. So pause the video and do this activity. All right, hopefully you've had time to do the activity now. So I'm going to keep going. Here are various ways that you could have narrowed it down. You'll probably have written some of these down. You might have written some others down as well. If you think I've really missed anything, then please do email me and let me know. Firstly, you can narrow it down by demographic, so by age, gender, race, etc. So perhaps you're only looking at leadership in young people, or perhaps you're only looking at leadership in men, for instance. So you could narrow it down by one of these demographics. You could also narrow down your topic by location. So perhaps you might look at it just in Scotland, maybe just in the UK, maybe in some other part of the world, whatever you're interested in. So you do want to think about what area of the world are you interested in. You might look at, say, the type of leadership, democratic, sorry, coaching, laissez-faire, one of these different kinds of leadership. So there's various different types, and you might be interested just in a particular type or kind. Or you might possibly want to narrow things down by the professional role of the people that you're talking about. So presumably you might well be talking about newly qualified practitioners, but what about, are you talking about child nursing? Are you talking about midwifery? What area particularly are you looking at? So you want to think very carefully about these sorts of questions, and I'm sure that you'll have others as well to figure out how best to narrow it down. So taking the broad topic of leadership, you could narrow it down using all of these sorts of things and come up with a research statement that looks something like this. I will investigate the use of coaching style leadership to develop female newly qualified practitioners across Scotland. So I've taken the big topic of leadership and created something much smaller, much more specific. And this is what you want to be doing for your assessment. You can't possibly cover everything about leadership, but you can look at a much smaller area like that. So now that we've started narrowing down our topic, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of project outlines. Sometimes it's called an abstract, which in a published paper would be the little section at the top of a paper that you've probably seen these, where it outlines what's in the paper. So in our case, we want to talk about the project outline. And the big question is, why do we outline? Why can't you just start writing your paper? Why do you have to actually outline it first? So a few reasons. One is that it gives you focus. If you just sit down and you start writing, it can tend to be sometimes a little bit like word vomit. It's just all of your ideas on the page, doesn't really have a clear structure, it doesn't necessarily make sense. You've got some really, really good ideas there, and then some maybe not so good ideas kind of sitting next to each other all jumbled up together, and it's not ideal. So outlining, make sure that you keep focused and you keep only the best ideas in there. So it keeps track of good ideas as well if you keep an outline, because sometimes when you start writing, and if you just keep dive right in, you might have had a good idea about 2 weeks ago, but if it doesn't come to you right when you're writing right then it kind of disappears. So if you update your outline and put good ideas in when you think of them, then you'll always have them written down. And this brings us to a really important point about this outline, is that it changes with time. If you go and write an outline right now, as I'm going to get you to do in a minute, this isn't your project set in stone. This isn't exactly how it has to be at the end. Rather, this outline is allowed and it should change as you go along, as your project develops. So this is what we call a rolling outline, or sometimes a rolling abstract. It's an outline that shows exactly what your project should look like, but it changes possibly every day as your project develops. So what do I mean by this? So I want you to write your outline. You're going to do this in a minute. I've got an activity to do that. You're going to write down various ideas that are going to be in your project, what your topics are, etc.
And then you're going to revise it, say every week, every month, or possibly even every day. It sort of depends on how long your project is. If it's a really long-term project, it would be every month. But if it's a shorter-term project, then every week or every day, every few days would be much better. So the point is you should always know what your project is about. Always know what your topics are. Always know what research you're going to use. Always know what your big ideas are. But you can always change it. You should be changing your outline every day, every few days, as new ideas develop, as you decide, oh, actually, these ideas I thought were good weren't so great. I'll move them out and I'll put new ideas in instead. So whenever someone asks you, hey, what's your project about? You should be able to give them an answer in a sentence or two. But you should also be aware that that may well change the next time someone asks a week later. So here's the activity for writing your outline. And you can find this also in the workbook, these same questions. So first, what is your primary topic, or possibly your primary topics if you're covering more than one thing? Then ask yourself, how are you going to narrow those down? So are you going to narrow them down by gender or by role, various demographic? What might it be? And then what research have you already done? What have people already said about your topic out there? So look at these three questions, spend a few minutes writing down a quick outline. You're going to have to do this for your formative anyways, so it's worth taking about 2 or 3 minutes just to think about these questions right now. So good luck with that. Bye.